Good evening and welcome to Tastic Tuesday. Sorry that I missed you all last week, but I was under the weather. So let's cut all the, pleasantries and let's get right into it. I've watched over the past 24 to 48 hours as people have been so verklempt over Kanye West's decision to purchase Parler. Where Candace Owens' husband is the head of the fledgling app that was removed from Apple and Google's respective app stores. And you all are shocked? Candace Owens has had a life of grifting. But when she's in dire straits, she continuously, historically, and calculatively goes back to the Black community to pluck one of us to save her. When her whole community of white people turned their backs on her, threatened her, and she had to turn to the NAACP, and it was Black and brown people within that community that had her back, she has turned the tables on that and acts as if that doesn't happen. But then after saying that racism doesn't exist, she accused a GOP member of being racist towards her and spewing racist epithets at her. Every time she is truly in need to save her skin, to save her family, she comes trotting back to the outskirts of the Black community and taking someone on the fringe and having them save her. Because she recently said she didn't want to be a part of the community, quote unquote, right? But she went after the man who infamously said that George Bush didn't care about Black people. Made a whole song about a gold digger, even though he turned around and married the epitome of that song. And right now there is still Candace coalition members within the Black community that act like they're a part of the movement, that they're a part of the cause, that they're a part of the culture. They're just as much of culture vultures as Kanye's estranged wife, but I digress. So she went and swooped him up so that the money that he made off the Black community could save her Candace ass family. And y'all was shocked by this? I'm not in the least. Because there's one thing you know about a coon. A coon knows the sense of community and inclusivity within the Black community. They know that no matter how far away they stray, even if we embody the doctrine of Queen Harriet Tubman, and we physically leave them behind, we don't metaphorically leave them behind. As we fight for equality and equity, we still leave them inclusive. Where I say as we go forward with legislation, we put together a list and we have an addendum on this legislation that it applies to everybody else, but we're going to let it fly when it becomes to them because they said they didn't need it. But see, we don't do that. Because we understand that inclusivity keeps the machine of humanity moving forward. We can still go forward to progress. But see, that thinking has left us in the dust. Because inclusivity does not always mean that we're going to go forward to progress. Because how many of our brethren and our sistren have we lost to the Candace community because of inclusivity? Because it's time for us Black folks to look at the Black community as politicians look at politics. Because right now you have people going, oh, that's socialist. We shouldn't do that. We shouldn't do that. But then when something is passed that benefits their constituents that they voted against, they take full credit for because they just want a pat on the back. It is time that we physically, emotionally, metaphorically leave people in the dust and stop allowing them to reach back and use us. And no, this is not me defending Kanye West because there's no amount of mental illness that makes you spew hate. Let's stop giving him excuses. He's been problematic since day one. He's been anti-black since day one. So stop saying, oh, since his mama died, he didn't. No, because his mother dying and him having such an affinity for his mother should have made him the most pro-black woman, pro-dark skin advocate ever. But it didn't. It didn't. He's always wanted a seat at the prolific table without learning the history. And he's told y'all, even though his mother was an English teacher, he never read a book. He looks at it as if he were a toddler looking at a vegetable. And that means that he was not cultivated or curated properly. And that's a discussion that the black community is not ready to have, where you have parents that are just loved by the community but wasn't shit at home. They didn't do shit for you but did shit for everybody else. And then it shows when you get older. But to protect the legacy of that parent, they'll make every excuse under the sun, the moon, and the stars above. But baby, it's not for you. It's to save the full legacy of those that came before you. But as I always say, what do I know? Until next time, y'all.